normal clothes.
I could look unproper, or I could fake it.
I just broke this.
I think I broke the whole row. It's okay. Oh my gosh,
How is this so
bad.
This is why I like the wedding room. Ooh, look at that. I like it.
Alright, so you're going to be sitting front row, front and center.
Can I play in the whole
That is not up to me, but I'm guessing the answer's going to be no.
Can we what?
The zipper, it's broken.
First, we gotta get this.
Just for that.
Oh, right.
I don't know that song. I just have to act like I know it. And sing control.
I don't think anyone.
Have him be singing and I'll sing.
I don't like singing. Well, it's because I'm saying them now. You hear my words 3 times. This is the second time for both of us singing Dark Gethsemane.
Oh, that's so sad. It's such a sad song.
Test, test, test.
So that's why we know.
And we sang it with the other. I forgot his
And
name.
and a one.
Yeah, Bill Memphis.
Check, 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 check.
I don't know how I forgot. But he used to do the quiz things.
Testing one, testing 1, 2.
I never did one except for once.
I did
I
one twice.
twisted the pulpit to the altar.
Can I get some water?
Mr. Riedel,
Can I get some water?
I feel like this robe. Oh, they can see my cat.
Return to God with all your heart, the source of grace and mercy. Come seek the tender faithfulness of God. Return to God with all your heart, the source of grace and mercy. Come seek the tender faithfulness of God. Return to God with all your heart, the source of grace and mercy. Come seek the tender faithfulness of God. Return to God with all your heart, the source of grace and mercy. Come seek the tender faithfulness of God.
Craig Arnold begins our morning with a meditation on a grapefruit. To wake when all is possible before the agitations of the day have gripped you, to come to the kitchen and peel a little basketball for breakfast, to tear the husk like cotton padding, a cloud of oil misting out of pinprick pores, clean and sharp as pepper. To ease each pale pink section out of its case so carefully without breaking a single pearly cell, to slide each piece into a cold blue china bowl, the juice pooling until the whole fruit is divided from its skin, and then only to eat. So sweet a discipline, precisely pointless. A devout involvement of the hands and senses, a pause, a little emptiness, each year harder to live within, and each year harder to live without.
Just makes my mouth water. The tartness, I can just taste it in my mouth. Welcome to Sacred Journey. This morning we gather to be well tended by the Spirit of God, which moves about and within us in this place, and to tend for each other, to care for each other as community. I invite you all, as who are able to stand, and we'll sing our way into this worship service this week.
Come to me, come to us, you who are burdened. Come to the word and come to the meal. Come without question or pressure or price. Come be embraced by the body of Christ. Come to me, come to us, pilgrim or stranger, looking for change, for challenge or light. We are the people whose calling is care, bearers of mercy, nourished in prayer. Come to me, come to us, broken or building. Come with your children, your choices, your chains. All are invited. to share in the struggle, our call and our quest.
And I invite you to remain standing as we enter into a time where we celebrate the ways we are well tended by the earth. We celebrate the gifts that the earth gives us. And I invite you to pay attention to the presence of the Spirit within you, surrounding you to the east and the west, the north and the south, above us, below us, and within us. I invite Chris to come forward, and she's going to lead us in hand motions as we bless the earth. So feel your feet planted on the floor and feel your rootedness. Experience yourself as fully present in this room. And let's all turn and face the east, which is the front where we welcome this day and each day. And join Chris as we bless the earth and sing.
Every part of the earth be to my people holy. Every part of the earth be to my people holy.
And now turn toward the south and plant your feet again. And let's bless the land, bless the soil and the rain, which mysteriously combine to grow the food that sustains us all. Let us give thanks for the seasons and cycles of the earth as we sing together.
Every part of the earth be to my people holy. Every part of the earth be to my people holy.
And now turn and face the west and plant your feet again, and let's bless all the creatures that live in our beloved planet, from the magnificence of the elephant and the whale to a cuddly puppy or a tiny hummingbird, all manifesting sacred presence. Let us sing together once again.
Every part of the earth be to my people holy. Every part of the earth be to my people holy.
And now face the north. Again, feel your rootedness, and let's bless all of humanity which populates our planet. Bless all of the diversity of ethnicity, creed, nationality. Bless the beauty in our variety, and bless humanity's ongoing awakening to the presence of the holy as we sing together one last time. And now find your seats again. And turn again to your worship bulletin, and we'll join together in praying this prayer in unison. Let us pray. Holy One, all creation reflects your tender love and care. As the seasons turn, we rejoice in the return of spring and offer our thanksgiving for the cycle of life, for longer days and the sunlight's warmth, for budding joy and blossom's promise, for your clarion call that echoes in our spirit and bids us return to you. Make your home in our hearts and let hope overflow. Amen.
The words from Luke 13, 6-9. Jesus then told them this story. A man had a fig tree growing in his vineyard. One day he went out to pick some figs, but he didn't find any. So he said to the gardener, "For 3 years I have been looking for figs on this tree, and I haven't found any yet. Chop it down. Why should it take up space?" The gardener answered, "Master, leave it for another year. I'll dig around it. I'll put some manure on it and make it grow. Maybe it will have figs on it next year. If it doesn't, you can have it cut down." Those are the words from Luke 13, 6-9.
A word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
And each one of you, firmly planted in your heart, is a word of God for God's people. In that spirit, I invite you to stand and greet one another, offer words of welcome and peace, words of welcome, well-tended care.
We're going to do some rearranging. Let's,
I forgot to introduce Darin, so you need to do it.
Yeah.
Since I messed up. Thank you.
Just think about the snacks afterwards.
Yeah, sure, great.
But for Don't Gethsemane, don't bring your own. Think about how Jesus died for us on the cross, releasing our sins as the Lamb of God. Forgive us our crimes. Think about having a moment with Jesus.
good morning. Thank you for being here. Singing with us. Good to have you here. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Good morning.
Remember to bend your leg.
Yeah.
I really, really, really want to sit right now. You got it. Yeah. Round down.
So are we ready to channel a little Elvis this morning? We are a well-tended people. Here we go. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me long, take me to your heart, for it's there that I belong and will never part. No, we're just getting warmed up. Let's do it again. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life So you can be seated. I'm going to say a few words to introduce our guests this morning who are doing the story for us today. If you're new to Sacred Journey, this is the time in the service when when you might expect to hear a, quote, sermon, unquote. We call it the story, and we invite lots of people to share their own experience of God in their lives during these story times, people from the community as well as people from the leadership. And today, we have Riedel and the altar choir who've come to be with us. And so we're going to actually think a little bit as well as enjoy music. Think a little bit about the way that we're well tended by music. Well tended by music. Think of all the ways that music has accompanied you all along the way, and the way that music brings us together when we gather in worship as well. Darin is the director of this choir and has other roles in the world as a teacher with music, and we're going to hear some more about that from him. But for now, welcome to all of you. Let's give them a nice welcome here.
Hear my words, O gracious Lord, to my thoughts attentive be. Hear my cry, my King, my God, I will make my prayer to thee.
For the record, that's only half of altar choir. We had a lot of illnesses and some spring break trips, so there's a few more people than that most of the time. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Darin Riedel. I have been a member here at Hennepin for about 8 years, and for the past 5 to 6 years, I've been involved with youth music here, including altar, carol, cherub choirs at different times, and sometimes all at the same time, as leading Joyful Uproar and many various aspects of that summer program. By day, I'm an elementary music specialist, that is to say teacher, but I teach students, not music. It's a semantics thing, but words do matter. By night, I am also a handbell musician extraordinaire. Gigs all over the place with a lot of choirs. It's kind of my thing. The two things that I've never wanted to be are a church musician and a public speaker. So here I am as a church musician speaking publicly. So thank you for joining me as I step even further outside of my comfort zone. I know the service is currently going through a series, and today is supposed to be well-tended. Frenchie graciously said I did not have to follow that if it didn't work for me. But it's an interesting thought for my life, and the thoughts I have to share with you today, because I've always been a tender of sorts. I just never really thought about it that way. As an educator, I tend to the children of our country. Music is my how, but my why has always been to help my students realize and achieve their potential, both in and out of music. For me personally, my love of music was always well-tended in my life. I'm a musician from a long line of musicians. My parents met in choir. One of my grandmothers was a church musician. But more than that, it was also a spark that I myself chose to tend to. Unlike a tree that simply stands there, I was given the opportunities and support to grow myself into what I chose, which is probably the best gift that anyone can ever be given. It was Leah Rousseau who first introduced me to the phrase thinning of the veil. And while the words were new, the idea was very old to me, because there's always been something transcendental about music for me. My earliest memories are of singing rounds with my family on our road trips, or sneaking down after bedtime to listen to my mom playing piano. But every time I felt a thinning of the veil, there's been music involved, and usually I've been making it. And once you've experienced something like that, you tend to chase after it, or at least I did. So the one place that I could always find that sort of feeling was church. And yes, that does mean that I went to church for the music, or more accurately, maybe I went to my music for the church. When I grew up in New England, and when I left, I went to St. Olaf here, and I was truly challenged in ways that I had never been challenged before. I was even delayed admittance to the music education program, because while I'd never not considered becoming a music teacher, I'd never considered that it actually might take work. And my professors were really concerned that I lacked the conviction to go through with it, which was fair at the time. Having that roadblock genuinely made me consider whether my desire to become a music teacher was just some childhood, hey, I should do this, or whether it was a genuine career path. And as unfun as it was, the forced self-reflection that made me realize that not only was becoming a music educator a goal, but it was a genuine vocation for me, a calling to which I would work as long and as hard as it took to answer. So after a lot of work, study, practice, and more than a few tears shed in practice rooms, I did achieve that goal. I think the reason that it mattered so much to me was that music is the way in which I most perceive God. And what better thing could I do with my life than to proselytize music, and maybe through that God, to as many as I can? Which brings me to church music. This might come as a shock to you, but recent college graduates do not have a lot in the way of finances. And I also had graduated right into the heart of the recession, so there were very few options for employment. So I ended up getting a church gig at another church in the Twin Cities area, while my parents still helped me out with the bills of living here. The job was as an adult and youth handbell director, and it was a blast. But to grow a program in a community, you need to be part of that community. So I did that. I jumped in with both feet, attending that church, networking, meeting the people, and I spent so much time doing the job that I lost the feeling of worship. And I genuinely started to dread going to church and even to work at church. And if anything, the veil that I was chasing just kept getting thicker. So for a time, I kind of gave up on church until my roommate and his now wife dragged me to the Easter sunrise service here at Hennepin almost exactly 10 years ago. It was really cool and totally outside my comfort zone. I think there was a conch shell or something. It was just crazy. It was awesome, but it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. But there were pancakes, so I stuck around. Oh, they were good too. And I went to the Sacred Journey service, and they had bells and whistles, almost literally, and it was awesome. So I kept coming back, and I kept coming back. And when I decided that this was a place that this could be church for me, I also decided that I should never work here. So I'm not much of a gardener, but my mother had a huge garden plot going up. And the one thing that I remember is after you've spread the fertilizer, you have to mix it up and till the soil. And I might be a terrible gardener because that's like the only thing I remember, but it's what I've got. And what I've now come to realize is Hennepin is the thing that mixes my life. Before, I had my work, my friends, my music, and they were all separate parts of my life that almost never interacted with each other. But since being at Hennepin, I've made friends from the dinner groups that I've kept in touch with after. I've convinced my best friend from work to join Hennepin Chime, and my wife has not only become the accompanist for altar choir, but also my partner in repertoire selection, as well as trying to get the youth handbell program restarted here at church. So I mean, it's all mixed up. And I wasn't really aware of that for a long time. Like there was something special, but I didn't know that that was what it was or that was why. About 6 years ago, I was asked to take on cherub choir. That's the itty-bitties, the little screamers. And Arvita Steen had done it for years, and she needed to step down because she was past done with it, which was totally fair. And the problem with having a vocation is sometimes it leads you places you'd rather not go. Especially when your mentors start throwing around words like, "we need you," or "you're the best one for this job," or "it's paid." So despite my misgivings, I said yes to working at Hennepin. And it was then that I started to realize how truly unique Hennepin was when it comes to tending my own life. I was now working with kids who I'd known since they were babies, whose families I was good friends with, and my lovely compartmentalized life in all its little pieces was just thrown into a blender. And I think that's the beauty of this church, this place. It's supposed to mess with your life a bit, and mixing all those parts and joys and sorrows of life into a community. It's like nothing else. So that has made doing the youth choirs here just completely different from any other church gig I've ever had. And the thing is, those were church gigs, but this isn't. This is how I tend my community. Another amazing thing about doing the children's choirs here is the kids. Half of the altar choirs here, and you can see their lovely smiling faces today. They are pretty wonderful most of the time. But I remember some of them when they were preschoolers who were so proud that they got to put on angel wings or a shepherd costume and be a big kid in the pageant on Christmas Eve. I remember the faces when they first got to ring handbells or chimes and just how cool they thought it was. I also remember, and this is one of my favorite memories of choirs here, when I was doing carol choir, which is 1st through 3rd grade. We were singing a song about the flock of God, and so I just asked, who is the flock of God? And I had 2 boys attempting to pick each other's noses. And I had 3 first grade girls who were basically retracing Wesley's ideas of, well, Some people say they follow Jesus, but they don't really follow Jesus. And then there's people who do stuff that Jesus would say, but they don't actually follow Jesus. And maybe they're all just the flock of God, and maybe we should just love everybody. And this is first graders, and it's just like, what? And stop picking your noses. But I mean, these children, they're truly amazing, and they can teach me just as much as about the things that they care about as I can ever teach them about music and God. So I asked the choir to write down some things about altar choir, why it was special to them or why it was important and why it mattered. And so here are some things that they wrote. I like bells. It is different from other choirs because we sing churchy stuff, which is fair. Altar choir is different because it makes you feel that you are welcome and that you belong. Altar choir is important because it brings people together and is fun. My favorite part of altar choir is how comfortable I feel when I sing and how many friends I make. Altar choir doesn't just teach me about choir stuff, it also teaches me about Jesus and God. I love choir and I'm glad I joined. I have made some friends and everyone is nice. I like altar choir because I get to sing, play bells, and hang out with friends. And that's really what it's about. We are a community of music, but we're a community. So seeing these children of my community growing in their faith and their music, as well as just growing, you just need to knock it off, getting big, has been so wildly different than any other experience in my life. And while I will still probably never introduce myself as a church musician, I'm very proud to have been a tender on their journeys at Hennepin. Thank you. There we go. So we would like to sing a song with you. It's in your bulletin, and don't freak out. It's not as hard as it looks. This song is called Ishe Oluwa. It comes from the Yoruban tribe, which is sort of Nigeria, West Africa-ish area. I'm not going to say we're doing the authentic folk variety of it because there's a bunch of versions and it's really hard to know that. But this is a version of a song that we will be doing. So the words are Ishe Oluwa. Your turn. Ishe Oluwa. Oluwa. Kole baje o. Fantastic, you know all the words now. It's not that hard. So, altar choir is going to stand and sing us through one time. In the middle, towards the end, there's a pick your own harmony. You can pick if you feel like it. You can not pick if you don't feel like it. Do what's comfortable for you. Altar choir is going to sing the melody, and one time through the song, then you're welcome to join us. Let's make some music together.
Kole
So I'm feeling pretty well tended. How about you? Wow. What a gift all of you are to us. Thank you so much. This is a time in our service when we have an opportunity to sit quietly with our own thoughts, listen to our own hearts, hear what words may be arising that we might form into prayer. We invite people in the room, people in the community who are present to offer their prayers aloud so that we may not only hear them but share in them as well. So if you have prayers that want to be spoken, I invite you to raise your hand and we'll hear them and share them with you.
I would ask for prayers for my wife, Krista. She's been in the hospital since Friday midnight, basically, and they still don't know what's going on with her.
So as is our custom, we take that prayer to our own hearts, each of us. Hold it there for a moment. Make it our own prayer as well, and together as one body, we send it to God.
I ask for prayers for my oncologist and myself as we meet on Wednesday to talk about my treatment. And he's thinking I need chemo, and I'm thinking I don't. So we're going to have a talk. Please pray for us.
We ask for continued prayers for our niece Anna, who I mentioned a couple weeks ago is in a program in Denver for an eating disorder, and she is putting on some weight, which is great news, but they're still closer to the beginning of that journey than they are to the end. So continued prayers for her, please.
There are many, many children and families around the world and in our own communities that are not well tended. And so prayers for families and children who are striving to build a life together.
Prayers for my brother Stephen, who has a bone marrow transplant on Tuesday. And he's thinking of this as a big adventure. And he's very positive. The doctors are positive. So prayers for them along that 100-day journey.
I'm thinking about New Zealand, and I'm thinking about being a member of a congregation worshiping in a mosque, and what must be going through their minds and their hearts after being shattered by this senseless hate crime. I wonder if we can reach out with our prayers to tend our brothers in the name of Allah.
I ask you to continue to pray for the LGBTQ community in our midst and also across the nation and the world in the United Methodist Church, because the General Conference decisions continue to be painful for all of us who have family, friends who support, and also as churches. I'm so grateful for this congregation who has taken such a strong stand for inclusion over many decades. And but some of the churches in the Minnesota Conference and across the nation are divided. And so as we begin to sort out what is next, may there be a new denomination, or what will emerge. We're hopeful that something new that is inclusive will emerge. We have to pray for one another, because it would not be right for us to be exclusive in any place. And so I ask that you continue to pray for the United Methodist Church as we struggle and as we ponder and listen for the guidance of the Holy Spirit as we move forward.
I realize sitting here well tended this morning that all around us there are so many people underwater, literally. The middle part of our country, Africa, people still in Florida living in tents. Let's lift those people and remember that they need our care also.
Let's join our voices together as we share these words. God of compassion, thank you for showing us how to be caring and courageous in the face of cruelty and carelessness. Teach us the spiritual art of soul tending as we become the hands and feet of Jesus. It's our privilege now to bring forward offerings out of our own abundance, to share our love in this tangible way so that the work of this church can continue. Those offerings go in a heart-shaped bowl. And if you'd like to contribute to the work of hunger relief, you can make an offering in the round bowl as well.
God has chosen me, God has chosen me to bring good news to the poor. God has chosen me, God has chosen me to bring new sight to those searching for light. God has chosen me, and to tell the world that God's kingdom is near, to remove oppression and break down fear. Yes, God's time is near. God's time is near. God's time is near. God's time is near. God has chosen me. God
Each week we take a few moments to celebrate the good news of folks who are in the room. So if you're celebrating a birthday soon or just recently, or the anniversary of some important event, or you're just starting or ending a chapter, an important chapter, that would be an example of good news. Any good news you have to share, I invite you to come forward. We'll hear your good news and we'll offer our blessings. So come on up if you have good news to share. Is there anybody left out there? All right, let's hear it.
Good morning. I've missed the last couple Sundays, and the things I wanted to share. First of all, on the 1st of March, I celebrated the 40th anniversary of my retirement from the United States Navy. So how time flies. This coming Wednesday, my oldest child, and she'd rather be referred to as the firstborn, will be 60 years old. And the day after that, I celebrate the 45th anniversary of my 39th birthday.
And Chris and I, we have our anniversary on Friday, and it's 50 years.
I just want to add one more joy. Didn't get to do it during the prayer time, but the women out at Koinonia are drinking deeply from the well. Frenchie is just amazing, as is Stephanie. And it was kind of with a heavy heart that some of us had to leave last night, but just praises for Stephanie and Frenchie.
Well, last Wednesday, the 20th of March, was an anniversary for Suzanne and myself. Something that some of you may not know is 7 years before we were married, I had a friend at West High School who wanted to introduce me to a young lady to a blind date to go to a formal. And we looked across the room, and there was this beautiful lady who I didn't know. And I said, that's the girl I want to marry. So we got married and celebrated last Wednesday our 65th wedding anniversary.
Don't be bashful. Oh, okay. Well, we're talking family, and I'm so delighted when my family's here, and I'd just like you to see my family and know my family. And so my son Mark, and his son Ethan, and Ethan will be shortly the father of a new male in the family. So in a sense, we're representing the 4 generations in our family, and so I am so proud of that, and I am really proud. And I want to add, it could come later in the announcements, but we've been talking about what it means to be an inclusive church and the rainbow and how symbolic that is for us. And my son Craig, Mark's twin, we were at the bishop's meeting a couple weeks ago and kind of getting up to date on what was going on in the church in the general conference, and ran into a clergy friend who was passing out these buttons, these pins. So I'll leave them here, and you can pick them up. I'm going to get some more from him. It's the classic picture of John Wesley, and he's wearing glasses, and the glasses are rainbow glasses. So that's an honor, I think, of what Hennepin Church is about. So there are pins here for you, for any of you who would like to symbolize and to let others know about the inclusiveness that we have here at Henneman.
Well, we're overjoyed to announce the arrival of a new spark of light. Her name is Ronan. She was born March 4th, and she is the daughter, our granddaughter, of two filmmakers who, and one of them makes films for social justice, and one of them was just nominated for one of the top 10 nominated shorts. So, I mean, you know, as a mother, you're always proud of that. But they have already planned her entire life.
You don't want to add to that? Okay. Well, at the end of this line, I guess I'm the youngster, but today is my 69th birthday. And that is exciting to me because next year at this time, I'm going to retire from my day job and be done with work.
So I invite you all to extend your hands and hearts in blessing and sing with us, God grant you many years.
So many joys and so much good news. Suzanne and Bob, I hope I look that good when I get to 65.
You have to get married first, Kent.
Well, I missed something over here. I bet it was a good one. We have cake celebrating Chris and Tom 50 and Bob and Suzanne 65, so a cake for those celebrations and for all the celebrations. And there are many other ways to be involved in the life and the work of this community this week. March is Food Share Month, so you are invited to bring food products for the Groveland Food Shelf. And if we get enough, Pastor Judy is going to jump in the pool at the Y. We've got an arrangement where if we reach certain milestones, certain benchmarks, our pastors, they've committed. They're going to dunk themselves. They're in. Also, there's a marvelous Salon Celev concert this afternoon you should know about at 2:30 in this space. These kids that perform at these Salon Celev concerts are remarkable. I encourage you to take advantage of those. Also, a Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus concert comes up this weekend, and Judy has some announcements.
Thank you for being you. Some of you have come to me and say, we know there are things to do in terms of starting a new denomination or a new wave of Methodism that is inclusive. What can we do to get this movement moving? We have started a group called Minnesota Methodists. You can go to the website minnesotamethodist.org. There is a statement for laity and clergy to sign that will be posted and given, presented as a resolution at the, we're working on some resolutions for annual conference, so you can get involved in that way. We are going to have a town hall meeting here at Hennepin on Thursday at 10 a.m. if you want to come and know more what's going on across the connection, because conversations are bubbling up about what could be next. We think it's pretty likely that the denomination will split in 2020, and we want to be ready for that, and we want to be ready to move to something new together. So we're trying to unify the Minnesota Annual Conference in doing something that will be amazingly inclusive. I want you to be a part of it, because you have been leaders for many years in this effort for full inclusion, and I know that we can lead in this as well. So please go to that website, sign the document, get involved, and share it with your friends and your enemies too. Just share it with everybody. There have been a number of young adults and adults who have come to me in the last months and said, I want to join this church, but I haven't been baptized. And one of the requirements to join the Methodist Church is to be baptized. And So I'm going to be meeting with adults who want to be baptized at 11:30 in the Longfellow room. I think I have 4 or 5 that want to be baptized. And we'll talk about how we can do that in a way that is not embarrassing, but is just right for you. So we're going to talk about what baptism means. If you haven't been baptized, you'd like to do that, please join me at 11:30 today in the Longfellow room. Want to also let you know that we are so excited. We have waited a long time for Old School by Staple People to come into its own and to flower, and it has, and it is. And Ann Lippen's here to tell you all about it. And if she doesn't want to speak this now, you can talk to her. She's sitting there, Dr. Lippen. But we're excited. We need volunteers. We always have to have volunteers to run our thrift store, our secondhand store, our boutique. Just saying. So if you want to do that and you want to find out more about that, talk to Ann Lippen, who's sitting over here in the green. She'd be happy to talk about that. But we really have to celebrate all the wonderful rebirth and new things that are happening there. So if you haven't been over there, it's 1901 Nicollet. Please take a visit and buy stuff. Buy stuff, lots of stuff. Let's see, I think that's all the announcements I have today. Keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. We continue to support the church because we are doing amazing work in this neighborhood. I want to tell you, 2 people have sent me cards from the neighborhood, non-members of Hennepin. One was a person who lives across the street who say, I see your flag every day, your rainbow flag, and stay strong. The neighborhood needs you. And then the other one was a person from Temple, Israel, who said, please speak out. Keep speaking out for full inclusion. So I just encourage you to do that wherever you go.
Louise?
Yes. Here, I'm going to use your mic.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I just want to invite you all to a performance I'm doing this Thursday, March 28th, at Vue Carré. That's a club in St. Paul. I'm doing a quintet performance. Usually I do a trio performance, but this is a special one, a one night only. My trio plus 2 wonderful horn players, a baritone saxophonist and a trombonist. And we're just going to do some wonderful arrangements.
Not just any trombonist.
Okay, he's trying to pull a little bit more out of me. He said, not just any trombonist, it's my boyfriend of my boyfriend of 25 years. So yes, and he's amazing, if I may say so. So is the saxophonist. But so we start at 8. And at Vue Carré in St. Paul, and if you feel free to come talk to me, but you can always check out more of the details at my website, marylouiseknutson.com, and it's this Thursday, March 28th.
All right, let's stand as you're able, and let's sing our way out into God's world this week.
Be prepared to be able to clap your hands on this one.
Yeah.
So one hand clapping or something.
You shall go out with joy and further forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break forth before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. And all the trees of the field will clap their hands. The trees of the field will clap their hands. The trees of the field will clap their hands when you go out with joy. You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break forth before you. You'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. And all the trees of the field will clap their hands. The trees of the field will clap their hands. The trees of the field will clap their hands while you go out with joy.
And all God's people together said, Amen. Women, children, animals, creation. Welcome, Ethan. Yes, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Mark, Sarah. Thank you.